AITA for proving I'm the owner of my home? This is a throwaway account. I, 20F, was fortunate enough to buy a house. For only being 15K. I have to say it's quite nice. It didn't really need much work besides a new roof and the cabinets needed replaced, but my dad is a carpenter, so that didn't really matter much. The previous owner was an older man who unfortunately passed away after living in the house since before I was even thought of. I finally got to move in 2 months ago. It's been fun making OT my own, but it's taken some time to get used to living alone. 3 weeks after moving in, I was outside starting some work clearing out a few places to plant a garden and flowers in the spring. I live in the Midwest, so I wanted to get this done before the ground freezes. My next door neighbor, I'll call her Jane, 50s, came out and introduced herself. I explained that I just moved in and was preparing my yard for spring. She said it was nice THQT someone was doing some work for the old man and gave me a spiel about how it's a quiet neighborhood and I shouldn't have parties. I told her I don't throw parties but was planning on hosting a housewarming and Thanksgiving soon. She said it's weird to throw a housewarming when I was renting. I told her I own the house. She didn't believe me but went home. Last week, I was out painting my front door. She stormed over yelling that I better have had permission to paint someone else's house. I again told her I own the home. She started yelling that I was too young to buy a house and she was contacting my landlord. I told her to stop being a busybody and leave me alone. She started demanding proof. I told her it was none of her business and to get off my property. She walked to the edge of her yard and called the police saying I was a squatter. When they showed up, I showed them my paperwork and asked to trespass her from my home. Jane is still angry. I was talking to my dad the next day asking what I should do. He said I was an ass for making enemies with my neighbors and said I should have just showed her to put her mind to rest. I don't feel like I was in the wrong, but my dad thinks I was. AITA? NTA. Even if you showed her the deed, the way you painted her, she probably would have claimed the deed was fake. NTA. And even if you were renting, it would be perfectly acceptable to have a housewarming party upon moving in, and it's certainly none of her business what you're doing to the property. My landlady doesn't care if we paint our house, landscape, whatever, as long as we're not damaging the house. She's a saint, so it wouldn't be any of our neighbor's business. And your neighbor definitely sounds like the type that wouldn't believe you owned the house no matter what proof she was shown. NTA. You showed the deed to the police and that was enough. Being an 20-year-old living next door almost guarantees with or without a deed your neighbor wasn't going to like you anyway. Misery, jealousy and envy loves company, so be on the lookout for the real housewives of your neighborhood posse she tries to put together. NTA. Jane needs to mind her business. Tell her she is no longer welcome on your property and to pound sand. Your dad is so wrong. Not the asshole. If you had shown her the paperwork without police there, I have no doubt she would have disputed the authenticity of the title. Also, you don't invite crazy into your life. If it shows up, you deal with it, but you certainly don't give it any more attention or details than absolutely necessary. This woman sounds 100% crazy. NTA, but you bought an actual house for only 15K? NTA. I doubt she would have believed the proof, given how she refused to believe the evidence. NTA. Everything went perfectly in this situation because she made an ass out of herself in front of the police right away. Your dad is the asshole for having no sympathy for you that your neighbor has personality disorders, mental illness, something. NTA. No one has the right to demand you show them private documents. That woman was going to end up your enemy no matter what you did. She was determined. NTA. You live in the U.S. Most tax assessors have their property tax records online. Your neighbor should have accessed that or at least made a call to the courthouse to see if the property had changed hands before accusing you of squatting. Enjoy your new house. NTA. It is none of your neighbor's business what you do with your home. You do not need to prove ownership to a nosy neighbor. Holy Jeebus. Where do you live that you can buy a house for $15K? Question mark. NTA. Hire a professional land surveyor to mark your boundary lines and get the highest privacy fence possible for your locality. Good fences make for better neighbors. NTA. Get a security camera as well because I bet money she will pull some shit and trespass. NTA. You can't reason with crazy. I'd call the non-emergency line and get whatever report they have of the visit. You may need it later. NTA. Sometimes you can't avoid making enemies. It sounds like if this had happened she would have done something else. She was gonna fight you no matter what you did. NTA. Congratulations on your home. Even if you were renting. Why the fuck is it any of her business what you're doing? She came over there assuming you were doing something you shouldn't have been doing. You don't owe her an explanation. Tell your dad the only one making enemies was your busybody neighbor. NTA. NTA. I understand your dad's point and in general yes. It's worth considering if something is worth a feud with a neighbor. But we're talking that maybe you smile and nod when they tell you how the old owner used to decorate at Christmas. Or get their mail when they are out of town because the old neighbor did. Even if you were renting. Why assume that a time-consuming and property value increasing activity like painting was being done without permission? Honestly, if she thought you were a renter, the most logical assumption is that a young person is trading sweat equity for a break on rent so that the older guy doesn't have to do the work himself. It's insanely easy for someone to look up a property owner online. If she wanted to be nosy, then she easily could have determined you were the owner in under 5 minutes.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.